We have grown, understandably, to become quite cynical of politics and politicians and anyone really involved in those arenas, past or present. But today we're actually going to be speaking with someone whose experience in the political arena really goes far beyond the politics, and who is going to be sharing with us great lessons on leadership, integrity, service, so many things that are positive, coming from someone who has the wisdom and the experience to really not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation, because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Well, welcome to Coffee Conversation to chat about interesting topics with amazing guests. Just noticed there was a bit of glitch in the video there. Hopefully that doesn't continue to haunt us, but we're going to continue on here one way or the other. Hope you're all doing well. Yeah, I think we're kind of picking the video back up again. We'll keep an eye on that. Actually, I'm going to try to make a quick adjustment here that hopefully isn't going to cut us off entirely, but will give us perhaps a cleaner broadcast. Always have to, when we're doing live stream, we always have to make sure we're ready to make adjustments as the circumstances require. Yeah, I hope you are all doing great. It's kind of an interesting summer in many parts of the country, including ours. We are today under another fire watch, red flag, what they call red flag warning, and possibility of some gusty winds later today, dry conditions. The last time we had these kinds of warnings throughout the region was the day a few weeks ago, a little over a month ago, when we ended up actually having to evacuate because there was a wildfire that moved into neighborhoods near ours. And we were safe the entire time, but we did have to spend a couple of nights away from our house. And so we're keeping a very, very close eye on things today. How are you doing? We know that many parts of the country, much of the western region, Pacific Northwest, Oregon, and Washington, and parts of Idaho as well, have had some and continue to have some major fires. So I hope you're all doing okay. Chelan, watching on mute with captions today. I understand that. That's perfectly fine as long as you are watching and you have a beverage of some sort. I imagine in your case it's tea. Kathy Garlic, I'm excited for this one. I'm excited for this one too, Kathy. I don't ever rate one guest on Coffee Breaks over another one, but this is going to be an excellent conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy and appreciate this. Yeah, so how is everybody doing? I hope that things are going well. Let us know in the chat. Do say hi to let us know that you are here. And make sure that you participate in the chat. There are going to be a lot of, I think, great opportunities for comments and questions. And just going to move on to our sweet and savory because I do want to make sure we have plenty of time for our guest conversation today and share a couple of things. First of all, I want to share this story. This was an interesting story to me. It's one of those stories that just reminds us how simple moments can have lasting impacts. And really, it touched my heart so much because this is about a group of dads, a dad and a group of dads. It was a father in Atlanta, Georgia, who a few years back, I don't know, I was trying to trace back the origins of this, and maybe 4 or 5 years ago at most, as a father in Atlanta, he started taking his infant daughter, I think she was only 4 months old, to the library every week just to have some time together, father-daughter time, and to help her discover joy of books. He would take her and then he would get a book off the shelf and he'd sit down and read the book to her. Well, before long, he invited other dads to join them. And what began as one father-daughter outing weekly has grown into something called the Library Dads, a movement built around 3 simple ideas: bonding, books, and brotherhood. Now there are fathers from all across the community who are building stronger families, encouraging a love of reading with their children, and supporting one another along the way. I've got a recent news story from CBS Atlanta about this awesome community of fathers and the love of reading and the love of their children that this is bringing together. Take a look at this.
This is a really fun story for your Monday. If you've ever seen a group of dads with their children at Metro Atlanta libraries recently, they're probably called the Library Dads. It's a group. They started a few years ago with one dad and his daughter. It has since become known for its eventful story time meetups. Our Latasha Gibbons spent time with them in Cobb County.
It starts with the daddy wave. Then they're off. Another adventure with the Library Dads. But first, they must take the on-screen roller coaster into the land of books. A few years ago, Kari Arnold started taking his then 4-month-old daughter, Araya, to the library.
After doing it for a year, I decided it would make sense to get other dads involved in learning how to bond through books, through going to the library. And we, from there, built a brotherhood.
The Library Dads was born. Bonding with their babies over books and building a brotherhood is a draw for devoted dads. They meet once a month for group story time, individual reading time with dad, and of course, built-in tickle time too. Cassell Scott and his 3-year-old daughter, Amale, recently joined the dads for the first time.
I think it was eye-opening to see other dads like myself who are engaged. It's actually motivating as well.
Derek Lampkin has been bringing his sons, Dominique and Tristan, for the past year.
And then we continue coming because it showed my boys that dads show up.
And now their 7-month-old sister, Madeline Sophia, gets to enjoy story time too.
We want to bond through books and build a brotherhood. That's one of the things we want to do here is reduce that feeling of isolation and also reverse the literacy crisis at the same time.
Behind all the fun and excitement, there's a lot of learning too. Arnold says by the age of 18 months, Araya had a working vocabulary of 250 words.
That's because she just constantly heard those sounds and syllables being planted inside her brain.
The Library Dads Tour continues later this month at the Toco Hills Library in Decatur, followed by a stop at the Gwinnett County Public Library in May. Their events are free, but they fill up fast, so make sure to register online.
Was that not an amazing story? I very, very moved by that. And yes, I do hope that I can, in answer to the unasked questions, I do hope that I can reach out to this group and find a way to get them on coffee breaks. Wouldn't that be a great conversation? So you never know. You never know. So we'll see what happens going that direction. But I think this is just a story worth knowing about and maybe sharing with other people. It's fantastic. What else is going on? I had one birthday that I want to talk about this week, and it's happening today. And it's my sister, Carla. Carla Venturi is celebrating a birthday today. And she's not on here right now. It could be because they are celebrating. Don't know. But one way or another, I'll be getting in touch with Carla after the show directly. But happy birthday, Carla. Hope you have a great celebration. Hope you have a great day and can celebrate effectively. Do you have a special day this week that I did not have on my calendar? Yes, I'm going to have my sister's birthday on my calendar for sure. But maybe you have a special day coming up this week that we should know about and celebrate with you. Well, you can let us know that in the chat right now. If you have one coming up maybe later in the month of August or later this year, you can send us an email at cbwsteve@comcast.net. That's our email address. And if you send that there, we will make sure we get that on our calendar. And so when your week comes, we can celebrate that with you. It doesn't have to be a birthday. Maybe it's an anniversary. Maybe it's another special day that you want to make sure we recognize along with you. Send that to us. We would love to be a part of your celebration. All right, listen, I want to tell you a little bit about our guest in this conversation. A couple of you have mentioned that this is one that you're really looking forward to. And it's one that I looked forward to for quite a while as well, because this gentleman is one of those people who I don't think there's anything phony about him. He literally lives out his life in a way that shows integrity. I'll just introduce and we'll go from there and you'll find out for yourself. Richard Andrew Gephardt served as a United States representative from Missouri from 1977 to 2005, 28 years. A member of the Democratic Party, he was House Majority Leader from 1989 to 1995 and Minority Leader from 1995 to 2003. He ran unsuccessfully for the Democratic nomination for President of the United States in 1988 and 2004. Dick Gephardt was mentioned as a possible vice presidential nominee in 1988, 1992, 2000, 2004, and 2008. Since his retirement from politics, Dick Gephardt has become a significant lobbyist. He founded a Washington-based public affairs firm, Gephardt Government Affairs, and an Atlanta-based labor consultancy, the Gephardt Group. He currently consults for DLA Piper, FTI Consulting, and Goldman Sachs, and serves as a director of Centene Corporation, Ford Motor Company, Spirit Aerosystems Holdings, Inc., and United States Steel Corporation. I don't need to do a lot more in introducing Dick Gephardt. I believe that this conversation speaks for itself, and I invite you to really be engaged in this one, but very much listen carefully to what this gentleman has to say. Our guest today is former Congressman Dick Gephardt, who represented Missouri in Congress for nearly 3 decades, served as House Majority Leader and House Democratic Leader, and he has devoted a lifetime to public service. Congressman Gephardt, thank you so much for joining me today.
Great to be with you and look forward to the conversation.
You know, I think, Dick, as we get into this, it's always important to kind of get background, the starting points. What were the life experiences, even potentially from an early age, that shaped your commitment to public service?
Sure. So when I was 5 years old, my mother would get down on her knees every day and look me in the eye and say, Dick, treat other people the way you would like to be treated, because most of the time you're going to get back exactly what you give out. And that was my North Star from age 5 going forward. I'm a very lucky guy. My parents had very little money. My father lost his job early on. My mother was a secretary, but I had great parents, and I was able to go to public schools in the city of St. Louis and got a great education way back then. And I had a teacher in high school in speech who stopped me one day and said, I think you could get a scholarship to go to Northwestern in speech. She helped me get it. I went, and then I went from there to Michigan Law School. While I was there, Jack Kennedy was president, and I was really impressed by him. And from that point on, thought that I wanted to give my life to public service if I could. And so when I got back to St. Louis, where I'd grown up, I volunteered at the local Democratic organization, became a precinct captain, a volunteer post, and went door to door to every house in the precinct and figured out who was a D, who was an R, who was an independent. And I stood at the polling place and handed out ballots on election day at 4:00. If anybody I had ID'd as a Democrat had not shown up, I went out and tried to get them to come in and vote. From there, I ran for city council in 1971 in St. Louis. They called it the Board of Aldermen. I got elected by 12 votes. And then I ran for re-election. While I was serving my second term, our member of Congress retired, and I filed for that job and went to 50,000 doors over a year, every day, 12 hours a day, meeting the people, listening to the people, building trust, and got elected from a tough primary and a tough general. And from there, it was 28 years in Congress. That's public service. And I'm privileged and honored to have had that opportunity to represent those great people in St. Louis for all those years.
You know, leadership is a key element, I think, of any role. You had formal positions of leadership, and I think sometimes we forget that we all carry that mantle in one way or another. How do you personally define leadership, and how do you see it fitting into life in general?
I think the important ingredient in being able to lead and help other people reach goals is to have a relationship of respect and trust. And you build that over time because you build it through experience and interaction. I always found that, as my mother told me, treating other people the way I wanted to be treated was the best way to get to that position of trust. One of the things she used to say is, listen to people. When you meet someone, don't talk about yourself. Ask them about themselves. Listen to them. When you listen to them, you show them respect, and you're treating them the way you would like to be treated. And so that was what I did. I did with fellow members of Congress what I did with my constituents, which was just listening, talking, listening, being transparent, showing them respect, And when you do that, people return the respect and you build a position of trust. And then they look to you for leadership and help in reaching your common goals.
I've been in settings where I've heard you talk about self-sacrifice as a part of leadership, as a part of functioning in any setting. Could you share just a little bit about that?
Well, I don't see it as sacrifice. In fact, I recently self-published a 40-page book that really set out the golden rule and how I tried to live by the golden rule and what that meant in my personal life, my political life, my life after public service. And I even relate it to the way countries act and behave. And the name of the book is Be Selfish, Live the Golden Rule. And the obvious point is, if you want to be treated well by people, you have to start that by treating them well. And it relates to anything you will do in your life. It will relate to your personal relationships, your family. It will relate to whatever business or activity you're in your career. And it will relate actually to countries. One of the examples I use at the end of this short book is that after World War II, Harry Truman went to the American people after we were bankrupt from the war, after we had lost thousands of people in the war, and asked the taxpayers to come up with more money to give to the countries and the people that we had just defeated. And that has inured to our benefit and to the world's benefit ever since. So that is an example of being selfish by living the golden rule.
With all your years serving in Congress, what is something that you think that the public most misunderstands about Congress and its functioning?
Well, I think people have really gotten angry at Congress, the establishment, the elites, the leaders, the institutions, for a variety of reasons. These institutions, these leaders, Congress people are never perfect. They've never been perfect. They never will be perfect. They're human beings. But I think we're in a really tough place right now, not only in America, but in the world, because of the change in the information culture caused by internet communication, and namely social media. Because I've been wondering for 10 years, what's happened to the people? Why are people so polarized and hateful and mean and disrespectful of one another, which wasn't the case when I got into politics? And why are members of Congress reflecting that meanness, that anger to one another, to the point that Congress is pretty dysfunctional now? People ask me all the time, what's wrong with Congress? And I say, don't look at Congress, look at the American people. They're polarized almost as much as they were in 1860. And to me, the most significant cause of that polarization is the way social media, the internet communication system works today. What is that? So the platforms have figured out that if they're to get a lot of income from advertising revenue, the key is to get as many eyeballs as you can get focused on your platform for as many minutes and hours a day as you can. How do you get and keep their attention, addict them to paying attention to your platform? And they figured out that the best way to do that is to amplify to you. First of all, they know everything about you The New York Times doesn't know everything about you. CBS doesn't know everything about you. The platforms know everything about you. So they use AI, we used to call those algorithms, to boost to you information that the AI knows will keep you angry, anxious, upset, hateful, and revengeful, so that you'll keep your eyes on that screen hours and hours and hours a day. And they accomplish their commercial goal, but they're making our ability to maintain self-government, our democracy in America, very problematic. Because if half the people hate the other half and vice versa, you can't have self-government. It doesn't work, because self-government is dependent upon collaboration, discussion, and ultimately difficult compromises where nobody gets everything they want and has to give on more issues than they want to give on. That's the secret magic sauce. And so we're losing our ability to do that. And we've got to figure out how to get back to a world where we use digital communication, but we make it work for us rather than against us.
I'd like to delve a little bit deeper into that just for a minute, because what you're saying so much resonates with me in so many ways. And I just wonder how we as people can get better at finding common ground in spite of our deep disagreements. I mean, you mentioned it. There's probably as much divisiveness in this country right now as there was just prior to the Civil War. What do we do as individuals? What should I be convicted as an individual to be doing to get past that sense of divisiveness that keeps us apart?
Well, I'd say 2 or 3 things. Number one, try to be a better consumer of information. Try to understand and remember what the platforms are doing to addict you and your attention, so that you take more sovereignty and choice over what you're going to watch, what you're going to listen to, what video you're going to see, rather than the AI choosing it for you. Secondly, engage in more face-to-face communication. If you look at history of human beings, when we were early humans, all communication was face-to-face. That's all we had. And we were divided into groups of about 100. World population was minuscule compared to what it is today. And over time, people within the tribe began to understand who to trust, who was a truth teller, who was a liar, who would give you accurate information. And that worked, because if somebody was a constant liar, you just didn't listen to them. That whole situation allowed human beings to plan and strategize together. In those days, they were hunter-gatherers. And so they could split up the tasks, go out and do the work, bring back the bounty, and share it among themselves in the evening. Then in the 1400s, along came the printing press. And that was a completely new innovation of communication. But people didn't know whether to believe what they were reading on the piece of paper. Who wrote it? Are they accurate? Are they true? Are they honest? Or are they liars? And if you look back in history, for about 100 years after the printing press, there were witch hunts all over the world, because people were writing articles about all these people that were witches, and we had to get rid of them. To combat that over a long period of time, we set up something called journalism. We train people to be as accurate reporters of reality as we could. And that brought some semblance of trust and faith all over the world into what people were hearing and being communicated with on paper. Then came radio and TV. Then the journalists moved from print over to those mediums. That kind of sort of worked. Now we have internet communication as of 20, 30 years ago. Now we have 4 billion journalists. 99% of them have no training. They say whatever they want. But worse than that, we have the amplification system of the AI of the social media platforms. So it's a playground of misinformation and disinformation and hate information. It's a hate machine. It's an outrage machine. So people need to go back at least some of the time to face. Go to community organizations. Go meet people that you think you violently disagree with and listen to them. Listen to them. Show them respect. Everybody deserves respect. Go back to school groups and church groups and synagogue groups and whatever is in your community, garden clubs, whatever, book clubs, and just engage in face-to-face communication. Finally, I think we need, and I'm working on this now with my wife, public platforms starting in local communities that will invite the citizens of the community onto the platform to discuss controversial issues in the community. And then they can use modern technology, AI, to synthesize those views and try to see if you can come up with a consensus. This has been done in Taiwan by a woman by the name of Audrey Tang. She was the digital minister of Taiwan 5 years ago, and they used this with 3 big tough issues that had to be decided in Taiwan. One was, should Uber be allowed to come to Taiwan? Highly controversial, lots of different opinions. They settled that with a consensus. Then they sent that consensus on to the parliamentarians and they enacted it. This is not direct democracy, but this is a hybrid of direct democracy. Then they used it with COVID. They had the best overall result with COVID of any country in the world. And lately they used it on campaign finance reform, another real hot one, and they got that resolved. So this has started to be done in a few American communities. Bowling Green, Kentucky mayor has done it there on a planning process for the doubling of population they expect in the next 10 years. And so he's brought on all the citizens who want to participate to opine on what changes should be made in the health area, education, infrastructure, etc. And now they're trying to implement those consensus solutions. What's exciting about this is that, once again, when you get people together to respect one another, listen to one another, talk with one another, think about what others are saying, as Audrey says, people can get to what she calls uncommon ground. In other words, people don't stay where they started on the issue. They come to a different place because they're listening to other people. That's the key to getting to a compromise that everybody can, sometimes grudgingly, but can live with.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to make a difference in the world, whether it's their world or a broader world? What advice would you give?
Well, my best advice is figure out what your passion is, what your main purpose is that excites you when you get up out of bed in the morning. What is it that you really want to dedicate yourself to make change in the world or to address a problem or whatever it is? And then just go do it. When I knew in law school that I was interested in politics, I asked a lot of people in Ann Arbor where I was, and then when I came back to St. Louis, how do you get in politics? How do I get into public service? I'm interested. I want to try to do this. And some people said, well, go to Washington, D.C., try to be an intern, try to get some kind of volunteer position in a congressperson's office. But others said something that was really important. They said, all of politics is local. You have to start in the local community, maybe even the community you grew up in, doesn't have to be, but go to some local community where you are living and just go volunteer. Just do it. Just get up and go do it. I went to my first Democratic organization meeting. I was age 24 or 25. I had never done anything in politics. And I asked the committeeman, the Democratic committeeman of the ward, if I could volunteer. And he said, we don't have volunteers here. And I said, well, I just want to do something. I want to learn politics. I want to get involved. I'll do anything. And finally, out of frustration, he said, okay, you can be the precinct captain in the 2nd precinct. And I said, well, what do I have to do? He said, you got to go door to door and make that list, and they hand out the ballot and then bring people in who didn't vote. And I did that for 5 years. And I learned to go door to door. I learned to listen to people. And I loved it. I loved it. I met all these people that had all these different experiences than I had had. I met veterans from World War II who had incredibly interesting stories about their service in Europe or in the Pacific. And I was in awe of these people. What great people. And people would invite me in, and they had baked cookies, and they gave me cookies, and they had grown homegrown tomatoes, and they gave me tomatoes or string beans. I mean, it is such a great experience. But everybody doesn't want to do that. Maybe your purpose in life is you're interested in healthcare, and you want to help people have better health. And there's all kinds of ways to do that. Maybe you'll wind up and go into medical school. Maybe you'll want to be a nurse. Maybe you want to be a physician's assistant. There's all kinds of ways to be involved in healthcare. And it's a very rewarding profession and activity because you're helping people. Maybe if you're just interested in making money, that's your purpose in life, and you want to make as much money as you can, just look around to the small businesses that you might be able to be an intern in and go in and volunteer and get started. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. You just got to go do things. You can't sit around looking at your phone all day and figure out what to do. Go out in the community, meet people, listen to people, talk to people. It's all about the people.
Those are great. It's a great challenge and great marching orders. Dick Gephardt, thank you so much for sharing such, for me, valuable wisdom. Thank you for your years of public service and really for the ways that you and your wife are continuing to serve and make a difference in our world. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you.
Was that worth it? It was for me. This is one of those conversations that I expect to go back by myself. I mean, just on my own and rewatch over and over again. I've had the privilege of being in live space with Dick Gephardt and to hear him speak and to listen to him talk about, go into a lot more detail about some of these concepts of leadership and talking about his years in Congress and some of the challenges that he faced and overcame, some of the ways in which he really worked. And he was one of those people who did work to cross the aisles and work with members of both parties and worked from the House to the Senate with members of the Senate who in some cases were part of his party, in some cases not. Dick is part of the Democratic Party, served as a Democrat in Congress, and he talks about the fact that one of his closest friends in the congressional space was Senator Bob Dole, a Republican. And again, you see he served under different presidents from different parties. He served as both the majority leader and the minority leader when Republicans were controlling Congress, and just continued over 28 years. By the way, Dick Gephardt, you talk about, I sometimes talk about the fact that as a 70-year-old person retired, that I stay very busy. Dick Gephardt this is not a secret. I mean, you can find this online, is in his 80s. And he makes the work that I'm continuing to do in retirement look like I'm on a pleasure cruise or something. The man is nonstop, and both he and his wife. And I just want to say another huge thank you to Dick Gephardt for taking the time to join us in the midst of everything else that he's involved in doing on a regular basis. Just an extraordinary individual. I have so much respect and admiration for him. And always have. I'm with you, Kathy, a fan of his back in the day when he was serving in Congress. I remember Dick Gephardt being one of the champions of so many issues, and one who always displayed the type of integrity and the type of commitment to service that you see demonstrated in what he shared. And a lot of wisdom there. I definitely feel called upon to step forward in some areas. I mean, I do have done and continue to do volunteer work. I believe very much in what he says about following your passions. I would be curious to know what, if anything specific during this conversation. I saw a number of comments in response to things that Dick talked about, but if there were any specific areas that you took away that were wows for you, aha moments for you, something that you would want to dwell on further and consider for your own life and your own outreach and purpose, put that in the chat if you're comfortable doing so. Would love to just see how this connected and resonated with people. All right, we're going to talk about some things that are coming up. We got a lot going on in the coming weeks here. Next week is another one I'm really looking forward to. I've actually already recorded this conversation. It's very timely, but we're going to be having a conversation next Saturday with Chandra Fox, who is the Deputy Director of Spokane County's Emergency Management Services. And it's interesting. I mentioned at the outset, we are today under another fire watch in our region. There's a lot of fires in our region. There's been a lot going on. Talking to Chandra, she was talking about what a heavy season this has been and that they're really concerned about this weekend. But the topic next week and the focus of next week is going to be, how do you be prepared for potential emergency situations, whether those are situations that may require you to be sheltering in place, maybe with power out, or maybe you have to leave in a hurry because of something that's taking place, weather-related or fire-related, flood-related, whatever it might be. You've got to get out. how do you make sure that you are prepared in advance so that if or when that situation occurs, you were not completely caught off guard? And this conversation was partially inspired by the fact that a few weeks ago, we did have to evacuate because of a wildfire. And the alert to evacuate came very quickly. We didn't have a lot of warning. So it's a very timely conversation, even though we're talking within the confines of Spokane County with Chandra. Her information is information that's relevant to everyone, and the resources and information she shares, everybody should know about and have access to. So please tune in for that one. A couple of weeks out, on August 15th, we're going to be talking to a professional dance instructor. This is great, to talk about not only the entertaining elements of dance, but the physical and emotional benefits that dancing can bring, and learning to dance. Sometimes, if you're like me, you feel like you have two left feet. So we're going to be speaking with a lady by the name of Muffy Nye, who is a professional dance instructor in several forms of dance, and learn some of those things. It'll be a great conversation you will not want to miss. And then, do you remember the Bard? Casey Schisler, the Bard, who was here with us a few weeks ago, and talking about her musical journey and some of the things that she's very passionate about. She's returning from a trip overseas where she learned some additional things about the culture and the social elements, and is applying those to her music and to her poetry. And we're going to do a follow-up with her about what she has discovered and how she sees herself using that going forward. And then on August 29th, we're going to be meeting a man who is both an author and a business entrepreneur, but he is a veteran of the battles in Afghanistan, and just really within the last year retired from a career in the military. Rafael Hernandez is going to be with us to talk about the books he's written. He's going to be talking about his experiences. And one of his books is called Unbroken, A Soldier's Journey. We're going to be discussing that and discussing how Rafael has seen his life impacted by his experiences, and how he's utilizing the knowledge of and the recognition of those experiences going forward, both in his life and in his books. Hey, what are the topics you would like to discuss? Who are the guests that you'd like to see us have here on Coffee Breaks? We appreciate every single guest who comes on here, every single opportunity we have to hold a conversation. They are all inspiring. If you've got ideas, if you've got someone you would like to introduce us to, that would be great. Would you please start by sending us an email at cbwsteve@comcast.net with your ideas, with the topic ideas, the names of the individuals, especially if there's somebody you know who you think would be a great guest and you can help us with an introduction and help open those doors. It's fantastic. That's how we continue to grow and continue to provide content. And speaking of providing content, one of the key areas that we really are working on right now to grow in is our YouTube channel. And if you didn't know, we do have a YouTube channel, and it's growing. It is growing. And I'm currently working with a media expert who I've contracted with to help us get the YouTube channel even more robust, more focused on reaching out to a broader audience, because this is an area where, beyond the conversations that we hold here, primarily it's on the Facebook Live that a lot of our live chat takes place. But imagine how many more people could and should be hearing this conversation, watching this conversation with Dick Gephardt. And we can reach so many more as the YouTube channel grows. If you are not yet a subscriber, would you please subscribe to our YouTube channel? If you are, would you please share it with other people? You know, people right now who should be maybe not tuning in every week, but tuning in to many of these conversations. And, Dick talked about the AI and the algorithm. The more people we have subscribing, the more people we have liking our videos on YouTube, the more it's going to pop up when people are looking on YouTube, and they're going to find these great conversations. So please, would you help us out there? It's important to us, not because I'm looking for fame, but because these conversations, these topics, these opportunities need to be in front of a larger group. Okay, that's my soapbox. I want to talk, each month we highlight a nonprofit organization that we feel is doing amazing things. And this month, the month of August, we're going to highlight an organization that I've worked with in the past. I have served with them. I worked on staff when we were in Northern California. I even taught classes. It's called CYT. It's the Christian Youth Theater, and they have 22 branches or chapters around the country. Nonprofit organization that brings youth together, children from the ages of really preschool all the way through high school. And they work with them, and they're not about ego. They're not about seeing who are the great stars. They're about this. We've talked about this. We've talked about this when we're talking about organizations like Broader Than Broadway and other performing arts organizations. I'm a big champion and proponent of the performing arts as something that needs to be in front of everyone and that our kids need to grow up with. And CYT is doing that. They've got chapters all over the country, including here locally where I'm at, and maybe where you're at. If you see a star somewhere near you, check it out. You can go to their website and find out more about this. You can also donate to them, and we encourage that because supporting organizations like this is how we're going to bring our kids together. They teach great values. They do wholesome, family-oriented plays, musicals, and they teach classes that really help these kids learn how to work together. I know because I've taught some of these classes. I've worked with this organization, and I believe in them. And you see the link to their website down there. Look them up. Look up CYT and see if you don't agree that the things that they are doing are worth paying attention to. All right. Listen, I want to thank you once again for being here. I also want to one more time put out a huge thank you to Dick Gephardt for taking time out of an extraordinarily busy schedule to have a conversation with us and to share so much wisdom. I appreciate it very much. And like I say, there are things I know I need to apply to my own life. So, and within the context of what Dick talked about, we all have passions. We all have areas that we know we can just, what did he say? Let's just go out there, just do it, just begin. And as I always say at the end, find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Coffee Breaks with Steve.